Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, uh, back with another video. A review of Night 1, WrestleMania 41. Let's get it. Well, Night 1 started off real eventful. Pregame show. Right there with a bang at the pregame show, Triple H came out and announced that WWE has purchased AAA. Now, AAA is a lucha organization uh, based out of Mexico. It's been existing since 1992. It was originally ran by a promoter named Antonio Pena. That was the promotion that Conan was heavily involved with, where a lot of the luchador talent came down from came up from Mexico to WCW. So ironically enough, WWE is focusing a lot on the luchador talent, something that they really didn't focus on back in the day in the 90s. Also, was announced that Rey Fenix would take the place of Rey Mysterio Jr. Unfortunately, Rey Mysterio was injured and wasn't able to wrestle El Grande Americano at night one, so he was out. Peter Rosenberg hosted the pre-show along with Big E. Pretty good. But anyway, let's get into the matches and the results. Triple H comes out. He hypes the event. He talks about the importance of WrestleMania. Then we roll to the opening package. The opening package was was announced by Dana White. Dana White of the UFC, president of the UFC. I said last time at WrestleMania 40, and technically it was true, that WrestleMania 40 was uh, the culmination of or the first event for TKO, first big WrestleMania under the TKO banner. But I think this one was the true launch of TKO, the true showcase of the union between the UFC and the WWE. I mean, you had Dana White narrating the opening. He's talking about the Raiders. He's talking about UFC. He's talking about all the things that Vegas has to offer. A really well put together package. A lot of people were saying that Dana White sounded like Paul Heyman, and he did. But when you were growing up, not growing up, or like when you were, maybe you were growing up if you're younger, but if you're my age, you were already grown by then. But um, say you're a kid, right, and you grew up in the 2000s or the 2010s, and could you imagine one day that Dana White would be on a WWE broadcast on WrestleMania? I know technically MMA and wrestling aren't the same thing, but Vince McMahon didn't see it that way. Vince McMahon saw it as being, in competition. This is why when they were on the USA Network, before they moved to TNN, Vince did not want them to be on during the same night. It wasn't until they moved to TNN later in 2005 that Vince gave the okay of it. So Vince saw them as competition. And in actuality, even though they weren't the same thing, they were kind of in competition. You had a lot of talk about MMA and boxing because this is Vegas. Vegas is a big town for mixed martial arts. in boxing. So that was the opening. Then we get to the first match. Gunther defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso. Now, it was rumored that Jey Uso was going to have Cardi B out there with him or Kendrick Lamar. That didn't happen. He had the Raiders cheerleaders come out with him, coming through the audience, yeeting all over the place, and that was basically the uh, the end of it, if you will, because that was all they did. All they did was yeet. You know what I mean? Once that, like Bruce Pritchard said, once that damn bell had to ring, that was it. It was a no go for Jey Uso. This match sucked. This match was horrible, guys. One of the most horrible um, matches I've seen in a long time. Uh, Gunther was giving Jey Uso pretty much everything, and Jey Uso wasn't bringing it. But Jey Uso does win the World Heavyweight Championship. He makes Gunther tap out, which I hated because I'm like, he's Gunther. He's the ring general. Like, how can you make him tap out? You build this guy up as a monster, as a beast, as this, champion for however many days. NXT UK champion, Intercontinental champion, he was a beast. NXT UK champion, he was a beast. And then he comes in and just wins like that. Bullshit. You know what I mean? But whatever. And then we get to the New Day defeats the War. Eric and Ivar by pinfall. Coming in at 9 minutes and 50. And that Jey Uso match was 16 minutes and 30 seconds. It went on way too long. It was horrible. The New Day sucks. I mean, were they even trying in this match? But unfortunately, once again, the titles change hands. The War, Eric and Ivar lost the championships. Now we get to Jacob Fatu and LA Knight by pinfall. Jacob Fatu defeating LA Knight by pinfall. So immediately already, 3 titles have changed hands, guys. The World Heavyweight Championship, the Tag Team Championships for Raw, and the United States Championships with Jey Uso defeating LA Knight. LA Knight got a good ovation, but I feel like he's really fallen by the wayside compared to where he was a couple of years ago. But this was a really good match. Jacob Fatu came out with Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa did not have a match. I thought he would, but he didn't. And then at the end, Haku comes out. Haku jumps the barricade. I'm sure it was planned out, but it caught a lot of people off guard. People like, what the hell's Haku doing in the ring? But Haku comes out, and he congratulated Jacob Fatu. So the Samoan Werewolf is now your United States champion. The 5th match on the show, El Grande Americano defeats Rey Fenix by pinfall. Now, keep in mind, this is Rey Fenix's showcase. Like I said before the show was announced, it was announced that WWE purchased AAA. So they're going to start to showcase the luchadors a lot more. But on his first match, he loses. What kind of booking was this? You want to showcase how good the guy is, but on the first match, you make him look like a complete jabroni. Now, granted, the Chad Gable / Grande Americano gimmick is over. People kind of do hate it / love it because he is a heel. with the whole Gulf of America thing feeding into the geopolitics of Trump, renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of Americana to troll, the Gulf of America to troll Mexico, and WWE kind of leaning into that. Like, it's kind of a whole Mr. America type thing. Everybody knows he's really Chad Gable, but they have to play along like he's not, just like Hulk Hogan and Mr. America, or Dusty Rhodes and the Yellow Dog, or the JYD with Stagger Lee in 1982 in Mid South. We've seen this kind of gimmick before in wrestling. Usually, it's done by a babyface. A babyface will lose a loser leaves town match, and because he lost or get fired in Hogan's case, or because he lost that match, he has to come back under a mask, and everybody has to play pretend like they don't know who he is, but it's a wink and a nod, and they know who he is. But this is the first time it's really done in a sort of heelish way. But my point is, why have Rey Fenix lose off the bat? You're trying to launch your new luchador division, and at the same time, you have the guy lose. It didn't make much sense to me. Tiffany Stratton defeated Charlotte Flair by pinfall, and this was 19 minutes and 5 seconds. This was a really good match. As you guys know, Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, this has been a rough feud over the past couple of months. When Charlotte won the Royal Rumble back in January, and she announced that she was going to take on Tiffany Stratton, a lot of people, including me, wanted her to be Rhea and her in their trilogy, to cap off their trilogy: WrestleMania 36, WrestleMania 39, and WrestleMania 41 with Rhea and Charlotte, because they have tremendous chemistry together. And Tiffany Stratton is a rookie, but she chose Tiffany, and everybody was like, "Oh, Charlotte's coming back." After the injury, after she broke up with Andrade, so they're gonna give her everything she wants, and they're gonna Super Cena her shit, and they're gonna just hand it over to her on the silver platter. No. They don't. It was a hard-fought match. I think Tiffany Stratton got her teeth almost knocked out. Her teeth looked like it was chipped a little bit, but it was a very hard-fought match, and it was a very good match. And thank God Tiffany Stratton retained, because it's Tiffy time, folks. Tiffy time. People did not want to see Charlotte Flair with yet another title reign. So almost all the titles change hands, but Tiffany Stratton is still the women's champion. Let's backtrack a little and talk about Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Now, this match had a lot of drama. Jade Cargill was out for months because she was hit by Naomi. She was really injured in real life, so they had to figure out a way to write her off TV. And Naomi took a page out of her father-in-law Rakishi's book. He did it for The Rock, and she did it for Bianca Belair. We saw Jade Cargill come back at Elimination Chamber attacking Naomi, and Bianca Belair was going crazy in the pod, right? And then that long drawn-out promo on SmackDown where, it was like a mini Tyler Perry movie between Naomi and Bianca. Where Naomi admits that she did it, and this was longer than it needed to be, and there was a nip slip. Like, Jade Cargill's nipple actually came out. She had a wardrobe malfunction during the match. I don't know if a lot of people caught that, but this was longer than it needed to be. With Jade Cargill, because she's not so experienced, she's real green in the ring. What you need to do with her is to keep her matches really short. You need to do with her what WCW did with Goldberg in the 90s. You need to keep her matches short and sweet and have her just bulldoze over opponents until you get her to Bianca Belair, which that will eventually happen. We've been waiting for that since the Royal Rumble 2024. when they had that face-off, and that will eventually happen, I believe, probably next year in New Orleans. You know what I mean? But this match was too long, in my opinion. Jay Cargill looked pretty good, but Naomi, she just didn't have the skill to carry her. Um, and now we get to the main event. The main event, guys, of night one. This has a hell of a story behind it. There's years and years upon this story built. First of all, CM Punk. We know that CM Punk left the WWE in 2014 because he was not featured in the main event the year before. And he was not in the WrestleMania 29. And he was not going to be featured in the main event of that coming year's WrestleMania 30. He was going to wrestle Triple H. And he just said, fuck it. You know, I've been jobbing out to Brock Lesnar. I jobbed out to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2013. I jobbed out to The Rock at the Royal Rumble. I jobbed out to fucking The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I've been jobbing out to all these part-timers and legends. I'm sick of this bullshit. I'm leaving. He goes to the UFC. He trains for 2 years. He goes to the UFC, gets beaten in the UFC, humiliated initially by Mickey Gall. But Dana White gives him another chance. He goes to another UFC match with Mike Jackson. He gets humiliated there. He's out of the UFC. From there, AEW starts up. He goes to AEW. 7 years being gone from wrestling. We all remember when he came back, right? In 2022 in Chicago, that AEW show. We have a video on it. He does pretty well at AEW. Has a great feud with MJF and stuff. But then he has that blow up at the All Out performance in 2023. He doesn't last in AEW. He has the beef with Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and also the fighting incident with him and the Young Bucks and Ace Steel, right? And he's very outspoken against Tony Khan. So that causes him, at the end of 2023, to come back to the WWE after being gone for almost 9 years. And then he's at the Royal Rumble 2024. It comes down to him and Cody Rhodes, two former AEW guys that had beef with Tony Khan and left AEW, right? So, but he gets injured, so he misses WrestleMania last year. But he does play a pivotal role in costing his rival Drew McIntyre the World Heavyweight Championship when Drew loses it to Damian Priest. Now, but he came back to WWE in 2023 under the impression that he would main event one day WrestleMania. Now, it seemed like he was going to do it last year, but injuries again kept him out. And he fights his way back. He has the great feud with Drew McIntyre, which culminates in their cage match at Bad Blood 2024. And keep in mind, he has that history before that, before he left the WWE, 400 and something days when he was WWE Championship, winning the WWE Championship way back in 2011 from Alberto Del Rio after Alberto Del Rio beat him at SummerSlam thanks to interference from Kevin Nash, SummerSlam 2011. The Summer of Punk, you all remember that, when he cut the pipe bomb promo and threatened to leave WWE and go to either Japan or ROH with the WWE Championship, Money in the Bank 2011 against Cena. So he has that history. He's CM Punk. He's probably the most outspoken professional wrestler. I named him the wrestler of the decade for the 2010s because of his outspokenness, because of his and of course that brief time he spent in WWE as a Fox analyst for their backstage show before coming after leaving the UFC and before going to AEW. So the history is long. The history is long between him and Paul Heyman. Again, because Paul Heyman was CM Punk's best friend. Because for those that don't know, in 2006, probably the worst pay-per-view ever in WWE history, CM Punk was in an elimination chamber match with the Big Show. And Paul Heyman at that time, they were bringing back ECW. He was, of course, in charge of booking it. He wanted to CM Punk. CM Punk was an up-and-coming star. He just left ROH to come to go to the WWE. He was a star. He was a star in ROH. And he wanted CM Punk to win against Big Show with the Anaconda Vice. But WWE didn't want that. They argued with Heyman. That caused Heyman to get fired. So that made Heyman and CM Punk fast friends. And when CM Punk cut his pipe bomb in 2011, he said, "I'm the original Paul Heyman guy." So when Heyman comes back with Brock Lesnar in 2012, and then Punk has his run and Punk turns heel, it is Heyman that becomes his manager. It was Heyman who accompanied him. Is the last time he wrestled at WrestleMania in MetLife Stadium at WrestleMania 29 against The Undertaker, right? So Heyman has so much history with CM Punk. They're best friends in real life. So in an exchange for CM Punk, the Bloodline needed a partner at War Games, Survivor Series 2024. Fast forward, the Bloodline needs a partner. They were heels for years and years, so they burned all their bridges. Seth Rollins wasn't going to do it because he doesn't get along with Roman. That's another story that we'll talk about. In this match, he never got along with Roman Reigns, so he wasn't going to do it. But they needed that extra member to defeat Solo Sikoa's Bloodline. So Paul Heyman, he was betrayed by Solo Sikoa, beaten up by Solo Sikoa's Bloodline. Paul Heyman turns face at Madison Square Garden. You all remember, "You are not my tribal chief." Paul Heyman calls in a favor, and he gets CM Punk to team with the Bloodline for a favor. Now, we all assume the favor is to get CM Punk in the main event at WrestleMania, right? No, that's not the favor, guys. The favor is that Paul Heyman has to accompany CM Punk to the ring against his tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Now, what about Roman Reigns and CM Punk? What's the history there? Well, the history there was the Shield. Let's talk about them. Well, who are they? Survivor Series 2012. It is Ryback. Ryback, CM Punk, and John Cena. Both Ryback and CM Punk are on the rise to be the replacement for John Cena. It's kind of winding it down, right? Who appears? The Shield. Now, the Shield were basically supposed to be the hired gun, the hired security for CM Punk, because being that he was the champion, he was a wanted man, right? He was a wanted man against by all the WWE superstars. So he needed backup. So his backup was the Shield. And initially in real life, he wanted Chris Hero. It was supposed to be Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Chris Hero, because those guys had experience on the indies, right? Those guys weren't like Roman Reigns. They had experience on the indies. Uh, Seth Rollins was Tyler Black in ROH. Dean Ambrose was, of course, John Moxley, like he is now, in organizations like CZW. And Chris Hero was also well known on the indies. But no, they wanted Roman Reigns because he's Sika's son. He's a second generation wrestler. So they said put Roman Reigns in there. And CM Punk was against it, right? So when CM Punk leaves the company, he trashes um Roman Reigns. He goes on Cole Cabana's podcast and he gives a scathing uh insult fest to Roman Reigns. So and to Seth Rollins. So when he comes back, both these guys greet him with disdain. Both these guys dislike him. But when he comes back in 2023, he's a different person than what he was in in 2014 when Punk left. He is now the tribal chief. He's going through a lot of metamorphosis. He basically rescued Paul Heyman from obscurity. Brock Lesnar loses um, to Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 36. We talked about it. And Heyman is out there in the cold with nobody to manage. Roman Reigns comes back. He attacks Braun Strowman and The Fiend at SummerSlam in 2020. He and Paul Heyman is his manager. So Paul Heyman becomes the new tribal chief. He used to be the advocate for Brock Lesnar, but he becomes the tribal chief for Roman Reigns. And they build that dynasty of the bloodline. They are dominating WWE for years upon years. But Punk is not back yet. So now Heyman is caught in between a rock and a hard place. Who does he manage? His former dominant champion, CM Punk, or his new dominant champion, Roman Reigns? And then you have Seth Rollins. David says, hey, what's going on, David? Happy Easter. David says, Roman Reigns gets screwed all the time. Seth Rollins, what about him? He has history with Roman Reigns. That same year CM Punk leaves the company, Seth Rollins turns his back on the Shield. He sells out to the Authority. He becomes the Authority's hand-picked guy. They get rid of Randy Orton, and they put Seth Rollins in that category, basically saying that he's the future of the WWE, pushing him. Stephanie McMahon and Triple H pushing Seth Rollins to the moon. He goes through many metamorphoses, but then he finally meets up with Roman Reigns again last year, in which Cody Rhodes needed a partner. He stepped in as Cody Rhodes' partner. And then later on in night 2 of WrestleMania last year, he helps Cody Rhodes end Roman's streak, basically bringing an end to Roman and Paul Heyman's dynasty. So and of course he had the problems with CM Punk. The first Raw on Netflix, they wrestled in the main event against each other. So all these guys have history. This is the first ever time in WWE history that 3 baby faces stepped into the ring together. But it won't end with them being babyface. What happens in this match? A lot. But I'll just fast forward to the end. Some of the greatest spots in this match. Roman Reigns goes for a spear, right? And Seth Rollins reverses it into a pedigree. There's a spot in here where CM Punk gets put into the sharpshooter. CM Punk is bleeding from his mouth. Now, CM Punk, the night before in the Hall of Fame, inducted Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin into the Hall of Fame for their match at WrestleMania 13. So this is kind of reminiscent of that. And, Paul Heyman, he's in CM Punk's corner, but he's not really reacting. right? All throughout the whole match. They're beating up each other. They're going into the crowd. Rollins and Reigns even do a doomsday device on CM Punk. That was fucking awesome. The entrances were awesome. Everything was cool. Everything was going well. And then Paul Heyman turns around. He grabs a chair. Now he looks and he's like, who's he gonna give the chair to? Roman's down. Punk's down. Rollins is down. Roman's looking at him for the chair. Punk's looking at him for the chair. He slips the chair in. He looks like he's going to give it to Punk. Punk grabs it. Heyman gets into the ring. Heyman delivers a low blow to Punk. And then Roman looking at him like, at first, Roman, when he gave the chair to Punk, Roman was looking disappointed. Yes, David, I forgot. I forgot about that. Thank you, David. I forgot about that one. That's another piece of history. Going back 10 years before this, the heist of the century. Roman Reigns was about to beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31 after winning the Royal Rumble. And what happens? Seth Rollins cashes Money in the Bank and he screws Roman Reigns. And he walks out of WrestleMania 31 as the champion. So that's another piece of history. So now Heyman gets on his knees. He hands the tribal chief the chair, right? And we're like, oh shit, it was all a swerve all along. Michael Cole is screaming in the background. Michael Cole is like, what did it want to ain't cahoots all along? So Roman takes the chair. He nails CM Punk with it, right? He's beating the hell out of CM Punk with the chair. But what about Rollins? Rollins is just in the corner, right? And I'm screaming at the TV. I'm like, he's going to turn on Roman too. He's going to turn on Roman, right? And he tells, and you can hear Heyman say, get him, the shield, reminding Roman of their history, right? While at the same time screaming at CM Punk, you made me do it. Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Like he was Taylor Swift or something, right? You know? Look at you and look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. And then he goes to hit Seth Rollins as Seth Rollins is getting up. And what does Heyman do? Heyman nails his tribal chief in the balls. He nailed the tribal chief in the balls and hands the chair to Seth Rollins in a casual way. And Seth Rollins beats Roman Reigns, pinning Roman Reigns. And once again, Roman Reigns getting screwed. And Paul Heyman is now allies with Seth freaking Rollins. Man, it was incredible. Man, I love the fucking main event. I loved it. 10 years after Seth freaking Rollins. This whole main event, Punk leaving, Rollins screwing Reigns, the Shield breaking up, Paul Heyman playing the role that he's played. It's all been building to this. 10 years in the making. Talk about long-term storytelling. This shit was incredible. You know? But now, Seth freaking Rollins is the new Paul Heyman guy. The only thing I had a problem with, guys, only thing was basically on Raw, they gave the main event, they gave the result away. When Seth Rollins was about to curse, when Seth Rollins was about to curb stomp Paul Heyman on Monday Night Raw, the go home Monday Night Raw this year, Uh, he said, "You owe me a favor now," and we all knew the Heyman was going to turn heel. Paul Benedict Heyman, as Michael Cole said, that was an amazing call. It was like, well, now we know what's going to happen, right? And yeah, uh, if they hadn't done that, it would have been a little bit better, guys. It would have been a little bit better. But like I said, Paul Heyman is better as a heel. Seth Rollins is better as a heel. Man, they're gonna run roughshod over the WWE and look for either Jey Uso's title or Cody's title. Most likely Cody's title if Cody retains. Now, tonight, if Cody does not retain tonight, John Cena's heel turn was shit. And it's like they're gonna be like David said, John Cena's heel turn sucks anyway. Just turn him babyface. It's only there. This is his last year there anyway in WWE. This is a failed experiment. You know, because now you have a heel. Now you have a heel that will be gunning for Cody's title. Seth Rollins is heel again. So you don't need Cena. You know what I mean? It can just have Cody and Seth matches for next year, for next year. Maybe it's SummerSlam. You don't really need John Cena. You know what I mean? So, David's calling it now. David says John Cena will win tonight. I hope so, David. Now I'm thinking this. I have a crazy theory. And David, tell me if you agree with this. This is my theory. I think Heyman and Rollins have something to do in cahoots with The Rock and John Cena and Travis Scott. You know what I mean? And why do I say this? Because remember when The Rock was in the bloodline last year? Heyman had two phones, one for the tribal chief and one for The Rock. And he used to call The Rock, right? He was in contact with The Rock. And The Rock, when he came out for Bad Blood 2024, he held up three fingers. There is a third man. Who's the third man? The third man could be Seth Rollins. you know, John Cena, Seth Rollins, and The Rock. Three different eras together in a brand new faction, screwing not only Roman Reigns, not only the second biggest babyface in the company, but the top babyface in the company in Cody Rhodes on night one and night two. Could happen. Yes. Yep. David agrees with me. So me and David on this channel, J Reaction 530, you heard it here. Both David and I, the two hosts of this channel, are telling you, we're both saying the same exact thing, that tonight, Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, their story's not done yet. they're gonna help John Cena win the WWE Championship for the 17th time. Watch and see, guys. And that will cap off an amazing WrestleMania. Now, and also was announced that at SummerSlam, we'll have a guest host at SummerSlam, somebody that David likes, Cardi B. Cardi B will be at SummerSlam as the host. She'll be hosting SummerSlam. So that was another announcement last night. She's been in talks with WWE for years. She was pregnant before, so she couldn't do it back in 2022, but she will be doing it this year in 2025. So she's a huge wrestling fan. It's well known. She's a fan of Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, from back in the day. So we'll be seeing her at WrestleMania. SummerSlam rather. This coming year, MetLife Stadium, New Jersey. So anyway, let's run through tonight's matches and give my predictions. Io Sky versus Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. This should be a good match. This should be a very good match. My prediction is that Rhea Ripley will retain. Rhea Ripley will win. She will defeat Io Sky. I don't see Io walking out of here as champion. Braun Breaker, Finn as the champion, the Intercontinental Championship match. Braun Breaker, Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. Look for Braun Breaker to spear somebody out of there, spear multiple people, probably Penta and Dominic Mysterio, and kill them like he killed Carlito on Raw. Damian Priest, a rematch from last year. Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre in a Sin City street fight. This should get ugly. I like Damian Priest when he's in street fights. And then the women's tag team title match, Lyra Valkyrian and a to be named person, a mystery partner. Maybe the mystery partner is AJ Lee. That would be cool. Who knows? To take on Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. But depending on who, maybe if the mystery partner is AJ Lee, maybe they'll win. Maybe the Women's Intercontinental Champion, Lyra Valkyrian, and her to be named partner will defeat. But I like the team of Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. They're pretty cool. So I hope they retain. And Randy Orton's mystery partner. Who is Randy Orton's mystery partner? Now, if Randy Orton's mystery partner is Nick Aldis, the SmackDown general manager, that'd be a huge letdown, guys. I want it to be Rusev. I want it to be Aleister Black, somebody coming back from AEW, just like the Cody Rhodes return back 3 years ago. Somebody, a big return, not somebody, not Nick Aldis, somebody who's never even wrestled in WWE. And then the main event, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. I already gave my prediction for that. But yeah, that's what's up, man. Cardi B announced for SummerSlam hosting. And Bree came to the YouTube. He wants it to be Solo. He feels like Solo should turn babyface. Well, I don't know. Randy kind of turned heel by attacking Nick Aldis, so he feels like Solo should be Randy's mystery opponent. Yeah, that would be a good match. I didn't even think about Solo. But Solo would be a good opponent rather than Nick Aldis. I mean, shit. I'm telling you guys, if it's Nick Aldis, that's the worst letdown that could fucking happen, guys. Because Nick Aldis sucks. I mean, I've never really seen him. I didn't watch NWA Power, so I don't know how good of a wrestler he is. But come on, the GM steps out of the GM of SmackDown steps out of retirement to fucking face Randy Orton. That's lame. I mean, you got such a roster. Well, you guys know better than me. I never watched him wrestle because he only wrestled in NWA Power, as far as I know, and I never watched NWA Power. So, but it was a pretty good show. People are giving Triple H shit. You know what I mean? Saying that the night one wasn't booked well, but come on, really? You know what I mean? Like Vince McMahon would have did if Vince McMahon was in charge. Roman Reigns would have destroyed both Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Okay, what about this? Mind blown. What if Randy Orton's mystery opponent is Brock Lesnar? Brock Lesnar. dude, dude. We're like, oh my god, it's not gonna happen, but it'd be funny if it did. Yeah, I did too. I did too. I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna blame for him getting his ass kicked that night on Raw when he was a bloody mess. But you know what? That would have made night one better. But you know what I think? The triple threat match, it was missing was blood. There was no blood. CM Punk was bleeding from the mouth. But imagine if CM Punk was bleeding from his head. Imagine they got color. But I think at the main event tonight, Cena and Cody, they're gonna do a little color. They're gonna get a little color tonight, a little blood tonight. Uh, and that's why they didn't do it for the night one main event because they got to get some blood tonight. See, I mean, CM Punk, Rollins, and Reigns really delivered. So um, for them to be better, it has to be blood involved. They have to do something in order to top night two has to top night one because night one was great. No, no, Bree, come to YouTube. That's not a real unpopular opinion. David and I feel the same way. We don't. A lot of fans feel that way. Honestly, guys, Cody Rhodes has been a very boring champion. He's been a very boring champion, in my opinion. Cody Rhodes is like his father. For those that watched Dusty Rhodes or not watched him when he was coming up, his career and stuff when he was in WCW, but when he was like, go back and watch the stuff on the network. Dusty Rhodes was always better when he was chasing the champion. When he was fighting for the championship. When he had the champion, Sting was like this too. When Sting had the championship, Sting was sucked. You know what I mean? But we all got behind Sting every time Sting was chasing the title. When Sting was chasing against Ric Flair. When Sting was chasing against the NWO in the 90s. That's the kind of champion that Cody Rhodes. That's the kind of wrestler that Cody Rhodes is. We love him when he's climbing up there, but when he has the belt, it's like, oh well, now he has the belt. Now what? You know what I mean? So it's better with a heel champion. And Triple H should understand this kind of psychology because Triple H was the first guy in WWE history that was a long-running heel champion. WWE always had babyface good guy champions. They would have the good guy champions for years and years. This is what Bruno Sammartino was. This is what Hulk Hogan was. Bret Hart was this. Diesel was that. Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin. They always had the babyface, the good guy champions on top, and the heels would chase. And that's good when you have a real over babyface, but somebody like Cody Rhodes is better with chasing a heel. So Cena as the champion is what I want to see too. I agree with you there. And plus, to make this heel run legitimate, like if he doesn't win the championship, why the fuck did he turn heel? Why did he sell his soul to The Rock that didn't even get him the championship? It makes it makes it completely stupid, right? In order to make it legitimate, he has to win the championship. Cena has to win tonight. If he doesn't, it was a heel turn for nothing. Imagine when Stone Cold Steve Austin turned heel at the end of WrestleMania 17. Imagine if Stone Cold Steve Austin sold his soul to Vince McMahon and he didn't win the title against The Rock. It's like, well, why did he turn heel then? All that, The Rock still won anyway? Right. Yeah, no. No, I agree with you. Bree. I agree with you. Me and David said the exact same thing. We said the exact same thing. We believe that Rollins and Cena are in cahoots and Heyman. It's all a ruse. It's part of a big. This is going to be remembered as. Remember Survivor Series 1998? I don't know how far you go back. Me and David go back pretty far as wrestling fans, right? But Survivor Series 1998, the whole pay-per-view was one big storyline. Everything. Shane McMahon turning heel. The Rock, Vince McMahon turning on Mankind, and The Rock turning heel again. That was all one big storyline. The entire pay-per-view, the tournament, was one big storyline. I think that's what this WrestleMania is. One big storyline of The Rock and Cena and Heyman and Rollins orchestrating this new authority team, this new faction. And it would be brilliant if it did, because Survivor Series 1998, we remember it fondly. I consider it the best work Vince Russo ever did. It's a great pay-per-view, but for one pay-per-view to be one big, massive storyline where every match is like a piece of a puzzle, you know what I mean? And that's right. Yeah. It wasn't. He says, I can't wait to see Roman's story now that he's alone for the first time in years. Yeah. The first time ever alone under his new persona as the tribal chief persona. Remember, last time he was alone, he was the big dog. And that's when fans hated him. Fans hated Big Dog. You know what I mean? He got booed out of arenas. WrestleMania 32, we all remember that. WrestleMania 33, booed out of the arena. The Royal Rumble 2015, Philly. People hated the Big Dog. People thought the Big Dog, at least I did, most of the older fans did. That's why he turned heel. Big Dog Roman was one of the worst characters the WWE ever produced. It wasn't until he got with Heyman that he really had his voice. He really found his voice. Now he's a great promo. People love him. He's over as a babyface, as tribal chief, as the tribal chief. But hopefully he keeps that edge. He doesn't go back. We don't need him to go back to Big Dog. Big Dog. So it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see. Like I would love. I know Heyman doesn't really take bumps like that, but sometime this year, it may be one of the rematches, Rollins and Reigns. I would love to see Heyman take a spear. Heyman's fat ass. Roman finally getting his revenge, and spearing the fuck out of Heyman for his betrayal, and then Punk giving Heyman a GTS. I don't know if he could get Heyman up that far. Yeah, but a spear is definitely doable. But the biggest pop of the night was ironically though Rollins turned heel, but the fans were still cheering for him. And the biggest pop of the night was when Heyman turned on Roman Reigns. The biggest booing session of the night didn't come from a wrestler. Dana White. Every time they showed him on TV, Dana White got booed. I don't know if it's because the way he handles the UFC or whatever. Maybe they don't like him. They feel like he's an unfair boss. But his own city, Las Vegas, the city that he calls home, he got booed. Maybe it's because it's all WrestleMania was all wrestling fans, and again, for years and years, Dana White, all he did was talk shit about wrestling fans. He called wrestling fake. He called wrestling stupid. He called wrestling fans on Colin Cowherd show. He called them booger eaters, retards. He called us a whole bunch of names, and now he wants to kiss our asses because now, TKO, and they just fucking boom out of the arena. Or maybe he got booed for the same reason Hogan got booed in LA. I don't know about Las Vegas's politics, but maybe he is close to Trump, so. But so is the WWE. So is Triple H and Stephanie. But yeah, we'll see tonight, guys. Bree came to the YouTube. Thank you for joining. David, thank you. Guys, we'll see, man. We will see. Tonight, Cody Rhodes and John Cena. The two matches of the night should be the women's triple threat match and Cody Rhodes and Cena. And a third candidate will be if it's Solo and against Randy, it will be a great match. If it's somebody else against, if it's Nick Aldis against Randy, I don't know. But congratulations to Jacob Fatu. Now they should have booked Braun Breaker versus Jacob Fatu for this year because that would have been a great way to commemorate their relatives taking on each other. Last time WWE was in Vegas in '93 was the Head Shrinkers versus the Steiner brothers. And by the way, we'll be doing a video on that. We'll be doing a video on the movie, Creating a Spectacle. Was WWE documentary on WrestleMania 9. Peace, guys. Looking forward to the main event tonight.